God's plan, our part in it. Hello everyone, thanks for joining. Let's talk a bit about something we've all thought about at one point or another. Purpose. I mean, it's kind of a big question, right? Whether you're thinking, what am I supposed to be doing in my life? Or just, why did this happen to me? It all comes back to purpose. Let me start with a quick story. A few years ago, I was stuck in a waiting room, one of those places where time stands still, and they're playing the same 3 songs on a loop. After about an hour of this, it hit me. This is a bit like life sometimes. We're all waiting on something, waiting for the next step, waiting for direction, waiting for the job or relationship that'll make sense of everything. But what if we're in that waiting room for a reason? Sometimes it's in those stretches of not yet that we start to see what's really going on, where we learn who we are and what we're supposed to be about. Those waiting moments are when God's working with us on a deeper level. There's a verse in Proverbs that say, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." I think that's Proverbs' way of saying we're not always in control, and that's actually a good thing. Ever have one of those days where you planned for one thing and then life took you somewhere else completely? Sometimes God's plan looks nothing like ours, and thank goodness for that. I remember the first time I thought I had life all figured out, only for it to go totally sideways. At the time it was frustrating, but looking back, I wouldn't change it for anything. I think that's part of God's plan, teaching us to trust and not always know every single answer ahead of time. There's a comfort in thinking we're in the driver's seat, but when I try to stick too tightly to my own plans, I miss the detours where God's plan shows up, bigger and better than anything I could have written. It's like building a piece of flat pack furniture without reading the instructions and realising halfway through you've got a few screws left over. Life's a bit like that. When we let God guide us instead of clutching onto our own plan, we see more of what He's building for us. Have you ever noticed how people are just naturally good at certain things? Some are born encouragers, others seem to know exactly when to reach out. The little talents we take for granted are often the ones God uses most. I know someone who can cook a meal so good it's practically a religious experience. And I know another person who can listen better than anyone I've ever met. Our gifts don't need to be spiritual to be part of God's purpose. Sometimes the simplest talents, like the ability to brighten someone's day or just be a calming presence, are exactly what He intended for us to share. So maybe you're like me, standing in that waiting room, wondering what God has planned for you next. The beauty is that even in the waiting, there's purpose. God has placed us exactly where we are to learn, grow, and yes, even to laugh. He's got the big picture. We just need to trust Him to connect the dots, one imperfect human day at a time.